couple weeks ago, before Christmas, I was actually over in Manhattan on my way to the dentist. And I was a couple hours early, actually, and I decided to go into one of these religious goods stores. I won't give you the name of the store, but I sort of went in and I was prattling around, and I began to look at the Christmas creches, you know, the stables that you can buy for your home. And one of them caught my eye, and the proprietors of the store had the good taste and I suppose the wisdom to actually have the price tag turned over so that you couldn't see what it cost. Well, I was kind of interested in it, so I turned the tag over and I looked at the price. And to be quite honest with you, my teeth, or as Father Pieper might say, what's left of my teeth, almost fell out. I think probably you could buy a small condo in Philadelphia for what this creche actually cost. And it got me to thinking about the Christmas creche that we had when I was a kid at home. This was not a particularly fancy creche. It was not an expensive creche. I don't really think it was, in terms of money, worth a whole lot. As a matter of fact, it was so old that there were really pieces and parts of pieces that were actually missing from it. For example, we only had 2.5 wise men. At some point or other, half of one of the wise men, the one that was carrying the gold, who I think by legend is called Malchior, his upper part of his body got lopped off. So at our house, the baby Jesus only got frankincense and myrrh. He didn't get any gold, which probably explains why they had to go to a stable instead of the Marriott. But all kinds of other strange things marked that stable. One of the camels, it didn't have a head. At some point or other, the head must have fallen off. And at one point, when I was growing up, I got one of those boxes of Play-Doh. I don't know if you remember that, but I got Play-Doh, and I tried to make a head for the camel and put it on the camel. Well, not being an artist, the best I could possibly say was it looked like a pretty bad genetic experiment. It didn't really look like a camel. There was a little angel over this old stable, and the left hand of the angel had been lopped off. It was holding a sign that said Gloria. But when the hand went, part of the sign went. So the only thing the sign said was glow over the stable. But as time went on, it became a kind of a testimony to the gifts that we had received, in any given year. For example, one year I got these army men, so suddenly army men showed up at the stable. One year I got this thing, they were called creepy crawlers. It was this stuff, you poured it into this device and you heated it up, and it made these sort of like lizards and things, and I put those in the stable. But you might say that the highlight was the year that one of my sisters, my little sister, she got, I think it was a Malibu Barbie. And she decided that the Malibu Barbie should be put in the stable as well. This was kind of a showstopper of sorts because, first of all, it was 3 times the size of any of the other figurines in the stable. And secondly, she was wearing a bathing suit. It never dawned on us that all of that white stuff was supposed to be snow. It took me a long time to figure out that the presence of all of those different figures in the stable was a kind of metaphor for what the incarnation is actually about. And that in a real sense, when you begin to look at the cast of persons who comes to the stable, you begin to realize that very often these are little people and broken people who find themselves there. The topic that Father Pieber actually asked me to preach on today was Mary as the Mother of God. I suspect he asked for this topic because, as you know, this Wednesday, which is New Year's, is also the feast of Mary, the Mother of God. But once you begin to peel back the meaning of that teaching, that Mary is the Mother of God, what you begin to realize is that, in fact, it is not first and foremost about the Blessed Mother. It's first and foremost a teaching about Jesus Christ. It developed in the 5th century. It comes from the Council of Ephesus in the year 431, when Mary was proclaimed to be the Theotokos, which literally means the God-bearer. In English, we would translate this as the Mother of God. It's one of 4 basic teachings that the Church has about Mary, the other 3 being the virgin birth, the Immaculate Conception, and the Assumption. And the truth of the matter is that the more that one reflects on it, the more that one is going to begin to understand that, like death and birth and suffering and love, it's a mystery. And we're never ultimately going to understand it. How can one who is a creature, one who is created, be the mother of the uncreated Word? There is no way that no theologian is ever going to be able to figure this out. It is part of the mystery of God's plan, that the Word became flesh. It's not so much something that one figures out as much as it is something that one meditates on and one contemplates. In today's gospel, we meet for the only time this woman, Anna. We don't know anything about her, except that she is a widow, she's very old, she's 84 years old, and she hangs out in the temple. But when she sees Jesus, she knows and understands what it is that she is seeing and experiencing. It is God among us and God with us. And because of that, she praises God and tells everyone that she meets about Jesus. To be quite honest with you, I think that sometimes the poets understand this way better than the theologians. There is a wonderful Catholic poet. She's no longer alive. She died in 1997. But she once wrote a little poem, and it was entitled The Mystery of the Incarnation. And I simply want to share it with you. This is what she says. Her name was Denise Levertov. She says, "It is when we face for a moment the worst our kind can do, and shudder to know the taint in our own selves, that awe cracks the mind's shell and enters the heart. Not to a flower, not to a dolphin, to no innocent form, but to this creature vainly sure it and no other is godlike. God, out of compassion for our ugly failure to evolve, entrusts as guests, as brother, the Word." Something wonderful has happened in Bethlehem. The Word has become flesh in the womb of the Virgin Mary and has been born into our world. Jesus is the Word of God made flesh, and Mary is the Mother of God. And because of that, all of us, whether we're headless, heartless, mindless, or just plain silly, can come to the stable and be welcome. And because God has become flesh in Jesus, and Mary is the Mother of God, we can all sleep a little bit more peacefully tonight and every night.